Before forming her first band, the Dresden Dolls, Amanda Palmer spent 6 years busking, often as a living statue called the 8-Foot Bride in Harvard Square, an experience that led her to realize the power of asking people to toss money into a hat. With that in mind, she structured a crowdfunding project on Kickstarter to recoup the production costs of her album, Theater is Evil. She raised over $1.2 million. That campaign, combined with crowdsourcing music for her Grand Theft Orchestra tour, created a wave of controversy. But Amanda Palmer is no stranger to that. She was criticized for a protest piece of theater against Proposition 8, involving Margaret Cho and a fake Katy Perry, and a poem for de Zohar, one of the brothers accused of the Boston Marathon bombing, and she totally stands up to it. One of my favorite Amanda Palmer stories concerns a wardrobe malfunction at the Glastonbury Music Festival that caused her breast to escape her bra. After being lambasted in Britain's Daily Mail, she performed a specially written song whose lyrics concluded with, "Dear Daily Mail, up yours," and halfway through it, she threw off her kimono and continued her performance entirely nude. Amanda Palmer's ukulele anthem is so convincing on the joys of the instrument that it makes you want to just go out and buy one, and I did. She's here tonight with her remarkable memoir, The Art of Asking, which debuted at number 7 on the New York Times bestseller list. And the only thing as cool as having her on our stage is having San Francisco treasure, the irrepressible Armistead Maupin, who I'm delighted to say has moved back home, join her in conversation. Please welcome Amanda Palmer to the JCCSF.
Hi. This is the first time in possibly ever that I am going to do a show entirely seated. I'm just saying that. Right? No, I mean it's like I feel like a total adult. Lies. And I have many things I want to share with you guys. I'm going to read, and I'm going to play you some things, and I'm going to bring out amazing Armistead. And I'm going to ask you guys, before we start anything, though, I'm going to ask you guys for a favor, like an actual favor that you are going to have to do right now. Will you do me a favor? I know you were just asked to turn your phones off. Can you turn them on? Hold on, not forever. Take them out and turn them on. And if you are on Twitter, go to my Twitter feed right now and retweet my last tweet, which is the live stream for this show. I only found out today that this show is being webcast. It's the only show of this entire tour that's a free webcast for the public. So for all the people out there who haven't been able to come to any of the shows on tour, this is their chance to hear some of the book and to see me in conversation with Armistead, and I need to get the word out. So just do it, and maybe after you've done it, hold your phone up so I know not to wait. You fast, clever, techie San Francisco motherfuckers. All right, beautiful, thank you. And then once you're done with that, just turn your phones back off and pretend that never happened. So, here's a song. I have to say, playing a ukulele in a comfy chair makes me feel about 20 years older. This was a song I wrote when I was 33. I was very young, just met Neil Gaiman, my husband. He was also a writer. He was very nice. He was British. And then I became a best-selling author, and all hell broke loose. Yeah. In my mind, in a future 5 years from now, I'm 120 pounds, and I never get hungover because I will be the picture of discipline, never minding what state I'm in. And I will be someone I admire. And it's funny how I imagined that I would be that person now, but it does not seem to have happened. Maybe I've just forgotten how to see that I'm not exactly the person that I thought I'd be. And in my mind, in the faraway here and now, I've become in control somehow. And I never lose my wallet because I will be the picture of discipline, never fucking up anything. And I'll be a good defensive driver. And it's funny how I imagined that I would be that person now, but it does not seem to have happened. Maybe I've just forgotten how to see that I'm not exactly the person that I want to be. And in my mind, when I'm old, I am beautiful, planting tulips and vegetables, which I will mindfully watch over. Not like me now, I'm so busy with everything that I don't look at anything. But I'm sure I'll look when I am older. And it's funny how I imagined that I would be that person now. But that's not what I want. If that's what I wanted, then I'd be giving up somehow. How strange to see that I don't want to be the person that I want to be. And in my mind, I imagine so many things, things that aren't really happening. And when they put me in the ground, I'll start pounding the lid, saying I haven't finished yet. I still have a tattoo to get that says I'm living in the moment. And it's funny how I imagined that I would win this winless fight. But maybe it really isn't funny that I've been fighting all my life. But maybe I have to think it's funny if I want to live before I die. And maybe it's funniest of all to think I'll die before I actually see that I am exactly the person that I want to be. Fuck yes, I am exactly the person that I want to be. Thank you. I'll play you one more very, very short ukulele. I get they're leaving already. This is these songs were actually both written around the same time. I started playing the ukulele as a joke. You should applaud. Anyone who starts playing an instrument as a joke has my full support. I mean, I grew up as a piano player, and I'm still a piano player, but I started playing this little instrument as a gimmick for someone's benefit in Boston one night. I figured I would just learn one song on it and play it terribly, and that would be the end of that. But it was so useful. And you can only understand how amazing this thing was if you've been shackled to an instrument the size of a car that is absolutely unportable in every possible way. And then all of a sudden you're given this little portable instrument, and you can actually, all of a sudden you can play songs for people in bathrooms, and you'd never thought to do that before. Whole worlds opened up. So I kept playing it kind of as a joke, and then I found myself in a couple of situations wanting to write songs, and as often happens on the road, having no access to an instrument. But I had the joke in my suitcase, and the joke, tempted me to become a real instrument. And so I wrote some songs on it, and now it's become part of my life, this little guy. I still don't know what any of the chords that I'm playing are. And I love that. I just know that it's the backwards triangle or the line or the line with the triangle, and amazing. So this was one of the first songs that I wrote on the ukulele, and you can tell because it only involves moving my thumb once onto the 3 strings, which is the way I think of playing the song. I have taught this song to 4-year-olds in less than a minute. Probably not very appropriate because it's a song about pubic hair, but they don't know that. This is a song I wrote on the small island of Tasmania in Australia. And if you're not familiar with Australian geography, Tasmania is kind of the shape of a bikini bottom. Like if you had a string bikini, I guess, or if you happened to still have pubic hair, which is very rare nowadays. I'm a fan of it, and as you can tell from this song. And if you would like to sing along, there's a sing along part, and there's a few people down here. You can just follow their lead. And it goes like this. My God. They don't play the song on the radio. They don't show that it's on the video. They don't know that we are the media. They don't know that we start the mania. Your eyes don't want to see what I'm making you. Ass up its seat and I'm shaking you. Walking down the street, I'm the lady showing off my map of Tasmania. Oh my God. Showing off my map of Tasmania, soft and sweet and shaped like a triangle. Some girls want no shape and they shave it all. That's so whack, it hurts with the stubble. Walking around and look like an 8-year-old. I say grow that shit like a jungle. Give him something strong to hold on to. Let it fly in the open wind. If you get too bushy, you can trim. They don't play the song on the radio. They don't show that it's on the video. They don't know that we are the media. They don't know that we start the mania. Your eyes don't want to see what I'm making you. Ass up its seat and I'm shaking you. Walking down the street, I'm the lady showing off my map of Tasmania. Oh my God. Showing off my map of Tasmania. Oh my God. Showing off my map of Tasmania. Oh my God. Showing off my map of Tasmania. Oh my God. Showing off my map of Tasmania. Thank you. And now that I've presented my incredibly impressive skills as a musician, I'll read to you from my book. I'm just interested because I've been on tour for a week now, and like the very, very first night of tour was the day the book came out, and one freaky person had read it. And they were. You can leave that. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Never mind. We'll move them on. We're second song. And so this is Whitney. Everybody, there she goes. She's from San Francisco and amazing, just so you know. So, what was I talking about? Oh, people. Right, and so, and every night there's been then there were 5 people, and then there were 15, and I was like, oh my God, 15 people have read my book. That's so many people. So I just want to ask, because I want to know who's read the book, if anyone has read the book. Some of you have. Okay, that's pretty good. For a book that came out a week ago. It counts half. But it's been interesting because writing a book is not like writing a song. It's longer, and it takes longer, and it also is it's lonelier. I was so lonely writing this book because and like that. I'm a performer. I'm a stage performer and like a flash songwriter. So I'm kind of like a crack addict. Waiting is hard, and I had to wait. I not only had to sit in isolation for months and months writing this book, but then it was done, and I had to wait 2 months for this book to come out, which is hilarious because if you ask a real author, they usually have to wait a year for their books to come out, and I was so excited to I'm like a 5-year-old being like, look at my painting, I did a thing, look, I did a thing, put it on the fridge. And now I wrote it so fast and it all happened so fast, and now I'm kind of figuring out what the book is, and I wasn't even sure. I was so lost in it and it happened so quickly, and I've been having these great conversations every night with different friends about their art processes, and I think this book more than anything else, which is weird because this is so specific and personal and totally nonfiction, but I'm finding out what it's about from other people, if that makes sense. It's my personal story, but it's also really not. And this is from the beginning of the book when I'm talking about being a street performer. And people would always ask me, and still ask me when I was standing as a statue, what was I thinking? And this is my attempt to try and explain. When a stranger put money into the hat, I would try to emanate an immense amount of gratitude for the savior who had momentarily freed me from my frozen pose. I wouldn't look at the donor immediately. I would be coy. I would look at the sky, I would look at the crowd, I would look at the street, I would look at my vase. And then once I had selected the perfect flower, I would gaze at my new friend, never smiling with my mouth, but always with my eyes, and lean my body forward ever so slightly, holding out the flower delicately clutched between my thumb and forefinger. And this always reminded me of the act of communion, that small, quiet, intimate moment where the priest proffers the wafer, instructing you to ingest the body of Christ. I hated church, but I liked the ritual, and I liked the singing, and I loved food. And even though that cracker was so, I'm going a little off-road here, but even though that cracker was so small, I really thought of it as a fantastic snack. So $1 into the hat, and I would gaze lovingly at my new human friend standing in front of me, my head filling up with a little silent monologue that sounded something like this. The body of Christ, the cup of salvation. Regard this holy flower, human friend. Take it, it's for you, a gift from my heart. Oh, you want a picture? Okay, we can take a picture. I'll just hold this flower and wait while your girlfriend gets out her camera. The body of Christ, the cup of salvation, the flower of patience. Oh, I see your girlfriend's camera batteries are dead. That's fine. Now your other friend is getting his camera out. This is all fine, because I am the picture of Zen. I'm a statue in the moment. The body of Christ, the cup of salvation, the flower of forgiveness. So, here we go. Come to me, human friend. Nuzzle into the folds of my white gown. We will pose together, looking beatific, with love. I was tall, so he's down here. Oh, human friend. Your friend with the camera's really drunk, isn't he? May he find peace. May he find solace. May he find the shutter button. Okay, you have finally taken your picture. You have high-fived your drunken friend. Now, please take this flower I've been holding for you for 4 minutes. My sacrament, the body of Christ, the cup of salvation, the flower of oneness, and hey, where are you going? I have a flower for you. Why are you walking away? It's a holy token of love. Body of Christ. Where are you going? Take the fucking flower! Really, dude? You don't want my flower? Fine. I will just keep it for the next person and hang my head in sorrowful shame for all that is wrong with the world. And as he walked away, I would hang my head in sorrowful shame for all that was wrong with the world. And if I was, by my own estimation, nailing my job, everybody watching this interaction on the sidewalk would shout after the dude as he walked away with his drunk friend and girlfriend. And this is my best Boston accent, by the way, because this was in Harvard Square. Thank you. Hey, dude! Take the fucking flower! She's got a, what are you, retarded? Take the fucking flower! She's got a flower for you! And the dude would usually bend to the peer pressure and come back to take the flower, but not always. Sometimes I just had to let him go. Girls, for the record, almost always took the flower. The ones who refused seemed to think they were doing me a favor by rejecting it, gesturing, no, keep it for someone else. I couldn't possibly, I'm sorry. And they didn't understand that by rejecting my flower, they were breaking my heart. Because gifting them my flower, my stupid, holy little token, was what made me feel like an artist with something to offer them instead of a charity case. Over the years, though, I got used to it, and instead of taking it personally, I slowly began to understand. Sometimes people just don't want the flower. Sometimes you have to let them walk away. Thank you. And I'm going to read you. Let's see. I'm going to read you this. You can never give people what they want, Anthony said. What do you mean? We were lying by the side of Walden Pond in Concord, 2 towns over from Lexington, where we created a ritual of ambling around the circumference of the water and then lazing under the trees with a picnic for a nice long grok. People always want something from you, he said. They want your time, your love, your money. They want you to agree with them and their politics, their point of view. And here's the thing. You can't ever give them what they want. But I interrupted him. That's a really dreary worldview. He looked at me. Let me finish, clown. You can't ever give people what they want, but you can give them something else. You can give them empathy. You can give them understanding. And that's a lot. And enough to give. While I was working on the first draft of this book, which I did over a few thousand coffees in various cafes in Melbourne, I shared a coffee with Samantha Buckingham, who's an Australian indie guitarist, and I picked her brain about her process and her relationship with her own fan base. And Sam is typical of a lot of indie musicians, not on a label. She crowdfunds, releases to the internet, she plays house parties. And we were comparing notes about the pros and cons of Patreon, which is a new subscription service that allows fans to automatically deposit money into a musician's account, sort of like a book of the month club for weirdos, so that artists can rely on a somewhat predictable income instead of praying that their Kickstarter will get funded every single time they have something to release. Sam has 44 patrons, and she's paid about $200 every time she releases a song. And also, people can choose how much they pay per song. They can cap their monthly bill, so Sam doesn't all of a sudden dump 1,000 songs on people and run off to Mexico. Although running off to Mexico when you're Australian seems expensive. So I'm thinking she would more like run off to Tasmania, or, that's in Australia, but, Papua New Guinea or New Zealand. Sam was, in fact, about to travel to Asia with her boyfriend, and she was fretting about what her backers would think if she released some of her new songs to Patreon while she was on vacation. She was worried that posting pictures of herself sipping a Mai Tai while releasing songs was going to make her look like an asshole. What does it matter where you are, what you're doing, or whether you're drinking a coffee, a Mai Tai, or a bottle of water? I asked. Aren't they paying for your songs so that you can live and make songs? Doesn't living include wandering and collecting emotions and maybe drinking a Mai Tai? Not just sitting in a room and writing songs without ever leaving the house? I told Sam about another songwriter friend of mine, Kim Bookbinder, who runs her own direct support website through which her fans pay her monthly at levels from $5 to $1,000. And she has a running online wish list of musical gear and costumes, like a wedding registry, to which her fans can contribute. And Kim had told me just a few days before that she doesn't mind charging her backers during what she calls her staring at the wall time, which she thinks is essential before she can write a new batch of songs. And her fans don't complain. They trust her. If you're asking your fans to support you, the artist, it shouldn't matter what your choices are as long as you're delivering your side of the bargain. And you may be spending their money on guitar picks, Mai Tais, baby formula, college loans, gas for cars. As long as the art is coming out the other side and making your people happy, the money you need to live, and need to live is pretty hard to define, is almost indistinguishable from the money you need to make art. Like me, Sam, and a lot of other new online artists, Kim is in daily communication with her fans, and her ongoing arrangement with her 200 supporters functions because she shares her songwriting process, along with her bad days and her heartaches. And so they trust her decisions. And when she posts a photo of herself in a vintage dress she just bought, nobody scolds her for spending money on something other than effects pedals. It's not like her fans' money is an allowance with nosy and parental strings attached. It's a gift in the form of money in exchange for her gift, which comes in the form of the songs. The relative values are messy, but if we just accept the messiness, we're fine. If Beck needs to moisturize his cuticles with truffle oil in order to play guitar tracks on the on his crowdfunded record, I don't care that the money I've fronted him isn't going towards 2 turntables or a microphone. Just as long as the art gets made, I get his album and Beck doesn't die. But that doesn't mean observers are going to stop criticizing artists and their choices or their processes anytime soon. No less than Henry David Thoreau has been called a poser. Thoreau wrote in painstaking detail about how he chose to remove himself from society, to live by his own means in a little 10 by 15 foot hand-hewn cabin on the side of a pond. But what he left out of Walden was the fact that the land he built on was borrowed from his wealthy neighbor, that his pal Ralph had him over for dinner all the time, and that every Sunday, Thoreau's mother and sister brought him a basket of freshly baked goods, including donuts. The idea of Thoreau gazing thoughtfully over the expanse of transcendental Walden Pond, a bluebird alighting onto his threadbare shoe, all the while eating donuts that his mom brought him, just doesn't jibe with most people's picture of him as a self-reliant, noble, marrow-sucking, back-to-the-woods folk hipster. In the book An Underground Education, Richard Zacks declares, "Let it be known that Nature Boy went home on weekends to raid the family cookie jar." Thoreau also lived at Walden for a total of 2 or 3 years, but he condensed the book down to a single year, the 4 seasons, to make the book flow better, to work as a piece of art, and to best reflect his emotional experience. Does that mean it was a lie? I told this story to Sam over our coffees. "Poor Thoreau," said Sam, shaking our head. "The donuts are totally the Mai Tai." Taking the donuts is hard for a lot of people. It's not the act of taking that's so difficult. It's more the fear of what other people are going to think when they see us slaving away at our manuscript about the pure transcendence of nature while munching somebody else's donut. Maybe it comes back to that same old issue, that we can't see what we do as important enough to merit the help or the love. Try to picture getting angry at Einstein devouring a donut brought to him by his assistant while he sat slaving on the theory of relativity. Technically an unpaid job. Try to picture getting angry at Florence Nightingale for snacking on a donut while taking a break from tirelessly helping the sick. That's difficult, isn't it? So a plea to the artists, creators, scientists, nonprofit runners, librarians, strange thinkers, start-uppers, inventors, programmers, to all people everywhere who are afraid to accept the help in whatever form it's appearing. Please take the donuts. To the guy in my opening band who was too ashamed to go out into the crowd and accept money in his hat, take the donuts. And to the girl who spent her 20s as a street performer and a stripper living on less than $700 a month, who went on to marry a best-selling author whom she loves unquestioningly. But even that massive love can't break her unwillingness to accept his help. Please, everybody, please just take the fucking donuts. Thank you. And I have a whole little list of things to do, and I'm gonna hopefully not forget everything on my list. But I think for right now, this is a really good time to bring on my incredible special guest. So please welcome to the stage one of my writing heroes, Mr. Armistead Maupin.
I love the fact that there were donuts backstage. I took 2, actually.
who took all the donuts. That's actually, it's this bizarre thing that's like come full circle. So when I did my Kickstarter, I hadn't heard the donut story. The donut story came to me care of this guy Mache, and I saw it online at the XO festival. He told the donut story, and then I emailed him, and I was like, dude, I have to steal your donut story for my book. And he was like, take the donut, it's okay. But my Kickstarter had already happened, and this is just like one of those like great serendipity stories. I had already launched my Kickstarter, and the packages were all up, and it was going great. And I released a single called Do It with a Rock Star. And I kept tweeting about the song, and my fucking iPhone kept auto-correcting it into Donut with a Rock Star. And it happened so many times, I made a joke about it on Twitter, and someone on Twitter suggested that I add a last-minute Kickstarter package called Donut with a Rock Star, and that the next time I was on tour, I could invite people backstage with me to share donuts. And you know, the logistics of that get a little tricky. This Kickstarter was 2 years ago, and tonight I delivered the final Donut with a Rock Star to, where's Joey? To Joey, who is somewhere in the audience. Where are you? Where's Joey? He's back there somewhere. Joey bought the Donut with a Rock Star. And I'm gonna actually bring the excess donuts to the signing table tonight, and everyone can partake in the holy donuts. Donut sacraments.
Do you want me to? Shall I read?
Do you wanna?
I'd love to.
Okay. I'll listen.
It's just a short bit, but with the strangest kind of Palmer-esque beauty and coincidence.
Armistead Maupin just used my name as an adjective.
I've been doing it for years, darling. We've known each other for about 4 years, and I still don't. Well, all right, I'm going to ask you the other question later. The odd thing about this is you picked out this passage, and it was the one that I read to my husband in bed 3 nights ago. That's how... That's how universal this passage is.
Awesome.
And so it's kind of like a 4-way between you and me and Neil and Chris. Thank you.
I'll take it.
I think all of us would, actually.
It's gonna get crowded.
These are the National Book Awards, and we're talking trash. We'd been together for a year, and Neil started asking me to marry him. The idea of marrying Neil terrified me. He asked and asked. We'd wake up in the morning, and he'd ask. We'd bed down at night, and he'd ask. We'd get ready to hang up after a long phone call, and he'd ask. It was a running joke, but he also meant it. I felt my hard insides, my desperation to stay independent, and the irony of it all. The girl who'd stood on the box for 5 years, falling in love and merging with a million passing strangers, yet remained staunchly resistant to an actual human merger. My inner feminist was also rolling her eyes. Just date, for Christ's sake. Maybe move in together. What is this, the 50s? But he wanted to get married. There was a practical level. He was dating a rock musician 16 years his junior, and introducing me as his wife instead of a girlfriend meant that, as annoying as it was, people would take me seriously. And the fact that we were both constantly traveling meant we couldn't take the halfway step of moving in together. And apart from the practical reasons, he simply wanted to get married. He said I made him feel safe. I didn't care as much about being taken seriously, but I figured we could make a deal. I asked him a battery of questions. I want to live and work alone. If we get married, do I have to live with you? No, he said. Will you marry me? Do I have to act like a wife? I don't really want to be a wife. No, you don't have to be a wife, he said. Will you marry me? If we get married, will we be able to sleep with other people? Yep, he said. Will you marry me? Can I maintain total control of my life? I need total control of my life. Yes, darling, I'm not trying to control you at all. Will you marry me? I probably don't want kids. That's fine. I have 3. They're great. Will you marry me? If I marry you and it doesn't work, can we just get divorced? Sure, he said brightly. That's just the best love story I've read in a long, long time.
And then I didn't think about it, but then we did get married, and you were there.
I was there, and I had no idea what was happening. We had actually made a date for dinner with Neil and Amanda, Chris and I. I think it was the 2nd of January or something like that.
It was the 2nd.
She was here doing her show, and yeah, and Neil said, we're going to have to break the date. We can't have dinner with you, but come, we'll tell you where to go. Something is happening. And he said, come to Ayelet Wallman and Michael Chabon's house over in Berkeley.
We'll have food.
We'll have food. I think I'm going to really tell you something you don't know right now. And it embarrasses the fuck out of me, really, to even tell it. But you're an inspiration, so I'm going to tell it. The Obamas were in Hawaii at that point, and I had read in the paper that they were having a stopover in San Francisco. And I knew that Ayelet and Michael had actually done a lot of fundraising for the Obamas, had been at their house and knew them.
I'm not sure where this is headed, but it's not good.
My poor husband, he was shaking his head from the very beginning. I just have this very eerie feeling. We're going to meet the President of the United States. And he said, you're going to be really embarrassed when the polka band shows up. We got to, and they actually read that their plane was, I had moved totally into that realm, and I thought, this is the big surprise. So we got to the house. It was so much better than meeting the Obamas. I have to say, it couldn't have been any better. But we got to the house, and Ayelet and Michael's kids were all dressed up. And I thought, well, that's a little, you're going to meet the president, but don't dress up your children.
How gauche.
We arrived at the door and said, "Somebody, can you help in the back with the casseroles or whatever?" It finally dawned on me, and then I was just, it felt like the most wonderful privilege in the world. You were upstairs sitting on the, well, I presume it was down because you were in your wedding dress, but you were upstairs on the toilet writing your remarks, your wedding remarks. And Chris ended up being your official wedding photographer because he was the one with the iPhone. And you said the most beautiful thing. I don't think I've ever heard anything so beautiful, and it's echoed in the book because Neil is always warning you that he makes things up, which is what writers have to warn everybody.
I should have put those in the book. They'd be a good appendix.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Or you could read it. But what you said was what got me, was when you stood up and read your remarks to Neil, you said, you're a writer and you make things up, but I want you to know you don't have to make me up. Which I just thought was so lovely. Do you hate me now because I thought the Obamas were going to be there?
I'm kind of pissed the Obamas didn't come to our living room. What the fuck?
Chris said, don't tell that story. Do not tell that story.
No, I won't. Okay, this is being webcast. Armistead gave me my my first alcoholic drink that night, he came like bounding up to the bathroom where I was sitting there sort of freaking out, figuring what I was going to say. You know, we had planned this maybe a week or two before, and we had already had a dinner plans with Ayelet and Michael, and we called them and we were like, can we get married in your house? Because we can't fucking figure out whether, you know, what we're going to do. We don't want to have a big wedding, and we just want to get, you know, we just want to get it over with, and we want to do it with our friends. And Armistead comes up with this like amazing concoction of champagne and something else and gives it to me and says, it's a nervous bride. Drink it.
Guess what she was wearing, by the way? Guess what the bridal gown was? Yep.
Yeah, which I've lost, of course, right? But actually, that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I lose things, but traveling constantly is part of the deal. Is like you learn, your life becomes a meditation on how to lose shit, because you can't travel every day of your life and not lose things, and occasionally you lose something or lose track of something that's really of value. And the last time I ran into Armistead was about a month or so ago, and you had just lost your wedding ring.
Yeah.
Did you ever find it?
The weird thing is,
where was it?
It's the first original wedding ring which I had lost. I've lost them, like, they fall off all the time, and now I'm losing weight and they're falling off, and I don't know whether to... Yeah, I'd lost it. And if you remember, there was a very interesting person who was sitting on the bus with us. Oh, well, never mind about that. The last person in the world I thought I'd be talking about a lost wedding ring, too. Yeah, that's a good story, wasn't it? Yeah. My wedding ring.
Well, learning...
You lost... I asked when we were backstage if the ukulele was the one in the book, because it disappeared.
There's a great story in the book, not worth reading, but worth relating. So this was the first ukulele I bought. You know, this was the joke ukulele. It was $19, and you know, it's plastic basically. But you know, I had been carrying it around the world, and I'd grown really sentimentally attached to it. And I did this crazy late night, you know, like lock-in show in a basement bar that belonged to some random friends, and everyone running around every which way, and 4 a.m, and drunk London people. And I led everyone into my dressing room, and the wine was flowing, and at the end of the night, I realized it had been stolen. And the case and all had been like, undoubtedly it had been on this counter, and it had walked away. And it wasn't even, in that case, it wasn't even so much the loss, it was the fact that it had been this wonderful night of community and trust and wonderful drunk friends, and someone had broken the code. You know, someone had violated the love and the trust. And I really, I felt like that really hit me below the belt, because my whole, you know, and there's a lot of this in the book, like this flip side of what happens when you blindly trust people. Like sometimes you really get fucked in the ass. And it's not all unicorns and rainbows, and like, you know, it's, and rightly so, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be a risk. You know, otherwise trusting people would be easy. And I tweeted the next day that the ukulele had walked away, and that I was incredibly heartbroken about it. And like a half an hour later, I got a Twitter from someone in London saying, "We know who took it. They're really sorry. They're really scared. But they want to give it back." And so, you know, this ambassador kind of like worked in the middle, and I gave the thieves my address. I was staying at Imogen Heap's house. I don't say that in the book, but I was staying at Imogen Heap's house. And these, you know, like a couple hours later, these 2 really frightened British teenagers, a boy and a girl, show up, ring the bell with the ukulele, and I open the door, and they're like, "We're so sorry, we're so sorry, we're so sorry, we were really, really drunk, we were really, really drunk, we were really, really drunk, sorry." And I was like, "Shh, come on." And the only way I could really see of completely making sense of this story was to sit them down. I made them some tea, and I told them my old shoplifting stories. And like, I tried to tell them my most embarrassing teenage shoplifting stories, and also the night when I was, not even a teenager anymore, like old enough to know better, 20 years old, blind drunk, doing merch for one of my favorite bands, stealing some of their CDs, something that haunted me my entire life until they were opening up for me and I was 34 and I finally confessed that I had stolen 4 of their CDs. And like my whole world changed. But it was a really, that was like one of those great internet love stories where like all of the good and all of the bad and all of the communication sort of like happened in that one moment. And this ukulele is still here, but I have to consider the fact that one day I'll lose it and then it'll be gone. Just like the wedding dress. You know, it's strange, but I think about it every day, especially now that I've written this book and it's taken on this huge symbolic significance and I don't know where it is. And it's like, it's a great practice of just like, every time I start clutching with regret, I have to let it go, and it's like,
yeah.
So
it's just a thing.
That's
what I did with the wedding ring. Finally.
Yeah, it's just
a
thing.
thing. Can we talk about? It was very touching. Well, maybe I should back up and say I remember the night of seeing you at the Warfield. I guess it was here. It was New Year's Eve. Yeah. And it was just this transcendent, hysterically funny moment when you were like hanging off the balcony singing Mein Herr. And I do think of her as the modern incarnation of Sally Bowles. That's why I'm so happy to have her in my life. And you were hanging off the balcony, and there was a woman, a fan, who was, oh dear. She isn't here, is she? Very, very aggressive. And she was right on top of you with her cell phone. And leaning over the balcony, and you're holding onto the mic, I guess, and singing still, and you turn to her and say, "This is no time to be taking pictures. Put your hand on my vagina."
How could she argue?
It was just an amazing moment where everyone had that release. But then I read that rather chilling thing in the book where somebody at a fan event went that one step too far, and you had to call up Neil and were crying on the phone to him. And it was the thing that happens to anybody who puts trust out there and says, "I believe in this more than anything. I'm going to trust people to behave well, even if I'm buck naked and covered in graffiti."
Well, and like it's like a constant peeling of an onion because the layers of trust keep going deeper and deeper. And, you know, when something like that happens, they also, and I think why it keeps working, is they also trust me to forgive them if they cross a line.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. And, you know, in that way, it's like a real relationship. It's never perfect. It's always like a little bit to the left, no, a little bit to the right, no, you know, you're pushing each other's, crossing each other's lines, but there's a real compassion to it. And that's why it works.
Yeah, I don't forgive her. I was mad. You turned into my girl at that moment, and I was mad. I was really angry.
You know,
I asked you backstage, and you said, "Ask me on stage," and I should.
Yeah.
In 4 years of knowing you, I've always assumed that the eyebrows were tattooed on.
No, they're makeup.
Every night, every day, you put on the little squiggle there?
Yeah, sometimes twice. If I jog or do yoga and I sweat, I take them off and reapply. Sometimes I'll put them back on for shows, but it takes like less than 2 seconds to put them on. It's like a signature.
And you know exactly how to. Obviously, you do.
I do.
You don't have an eyebrow girl, or maybe you do. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
We don't talk about her. She lives in the kimono. No, actually, it has a great story. It's a two-part story. When I was 20. And this is actually not an uncommon thing I've found as I've told the story to various people. When I was 20 in college and completely freaking out, like full on what we used to call nervous breakdown. I shaved everything. I shaved my entire body, including my face and my head, in some bid for control over my life where I felt I had none. And then I looked really terrible. And though I was willing to throw my vanity away in 5 minutes of a mental breakdown, it reappeared pretty quickly. And so I started wearing sexy hats, but wandering around without eyebrows will really fuck a person up. And really, like, people look at you and they just don't know what's wrong, but they're afraid. You know, it's like looking at a person without a nose. It's just shocking. And so, but I didn't want to just do them in glam style, so I started doing them artistically. And I noticed at the time, and then when I decided to repeat it again, 5 years later, Brian and I, it was the very beginning of the Dresden Dolls, and we went to a Marlene Dietrich lookalike contest at the Goethe Institute in Boston, which I thought was going to be a fun party. It was actually incredibly boring. And I lost the costume contest, but I had shaved them off so that I could do those like high arching Marlene eyebrows, the eyebrows that are 3 inches above your actual line. And then I started squiggling them in again, and I noticed, and I actually really only realized this in retrospect, that people would talk to me. It's like having a funny mustache. And it was actually sort of like having this weird thing on my face. It was sort of like this strange invitation. Mm-hmm. And I kept meaning to let them grow in, but it was like I was getting this thing, and then I kept them, and that was that was 14 years ago.
Wow.
And there they still are on my face.
And still charming me.
Thanks.
You went to a cuddle therapist in Portland? I don't know about this. I've got to find out.
Well, she doesn't call herself a cuddle therapist. She's a professional cuddler. And her name is Samantha Hess, and she started a few years ago just doing out calls. Something that I actually...
Ding dong. I'm here to cuddle you.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm. $60 an hour. And the demand grew and grew, and now she has a 4-bedroom storefront in downtown Portland. Her company is called Cuddle Up to Me. And the week she opened the store and went public and announced that she was doing this, she got 10,000 emails. Just let that sink in. And she just cuddles people, and it's she has cameras in the rooms to make sure that people feel safe, like nothing freaky is going to happen. And I asked, I wanted to ask her so many things. Like, what happens if someone pokes you with their boner, and does it get uncomfortable, and what do you do with the awkward arm? Are you now an awkward arm specialist? Because there's always that awkward arm.
What if they smell really bad?
Right, and so many things. And actually, she was just this person of, boundless love and joy. And, she was not like a crazy hippy-dippy type. She was just this really, just wonderful open girl who loves physical affection and loves doing this for her work. And she has been working 10-hour days, 6 days a week, and her business is booming so hard that she's hiring 4 other people and training them to be good cuddlers. And I was like, what does this say about society right now? Seriously. And it's like I'm seeing, and I write about it a little bit in the book, it's like I'm seeing a line between that and Alma the Hugging Saint, and Marina Abramovich just sitting in a chair and actually looking people in the eye. And these things are not fucking coincidence. There's something missing.
Yeah.
And we're finding ways to find it, which is, just encounter, real, genuine, authentic encounter with another person. And, we're nailing it in other categories, and we're figuring out technology, and we're figuring out all sorts of things, but that fundamental stuff, just like being touched, being loved, being seen and recognized by your fellow man, like regardless of what the relationship is, it's pretty amazing. And so here's the story. This was yesterday. At 3 o'clock, someone tweeted me a link to an article about this girl in the Independent UK. A UK newspaper covered this story, not an American newspaper. And I read it and was like, wow, that's cool. Oh, she's in Portland. We're in Portland. And I posted that minute, I posted to Twitter or Facebook, look at this amazing girl doing this amazing thing. Does anyone know her? I want to invite her to the show tonight and hug her. And someone must have texted her, and an hour later, she answered on Twitter. I sent her my phone number, and an hour later, I was in her arms. She was the middle spoon, Whitney was on one side, I was on the other side, and we were having a 3-way cuddle in one of her rooms. And I bought cuddle gift certificates to give to my guests on stage. And it was just like, it was another one of those beauty of the internet moments where, like, 2 hours later, this entire thing had manifested, and it was really incredible.
Well, you've demonstrated better than anybody I know. Well, as a matter of fact, you and Neil actually got me onto Twitter. I didn't know how it was going to work, but it took a day after the two of them said that I was on Twitter for me to have 15,000 followers.
That's
now,
because you're you.
4 years later, I have 20,000 followers. So I obviously don't know how to work it, but it does bring up a thing that made me shiver several times in reading the book. And if I haven't said it yet, have I said it yet? How much I love it. I couldn't stop reading it, and I couldn't get over your extraordinary honesty at every step of the way. You're actually asking yourself questions that writers ask themselves while they're writing books, especially memoirs. Am I narcissistic? Are they going to hate me? Should I be telling this? Should I be revealing these things about the people I love? All of that. You get the good stuff back 1,000-fold. You've demonstrated that. And I've felt on a small scale what it feels like to have strangers from another country tell you how much they love your work. But what about those horrible judgmental moments when they get on there and say the worst things in the world? I know you as a person well enough to know that hurts, no matter how much you can't believe one thing and then not believe the other. It's like reviews,
Yeah.
You have to take the good with the bad. How do you do that? And I know how you do it. I've read the book. It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's really hard. I mean, I'm doing it right now because my book came out a week ago, and inevitably, the reviews, which I'm not reading, I decided to create for this book a filtration system for my reviews. So they go to Jamie, my book editor, and to Neil, and they read them and pass along what they think I should read. And if the reviews are really nasty, I'm not allowed. And I asked them that as a favor because I can't take it on sometimes. It's too hard, and I don't, especially now on tour, I need to be here with you doing this and signing books. And if I clicked on the link where it's really obvious what's going to happen because the headline is Amanda Palmer's Art of Asking is a 300-page steaming pile of narcissistic shit, I can guess where the review is going, right? And even with everything I've been through, and even with everything I've learned, and even with all the people I know, not just love me, but really get the work and get me and get something out of what I do, and all of that great, wonderful, fundamental stuff that's just beyond ego, love me, but I've touched people. I know that these songs really mean something to people. Even with all of that, I know that if I clicked on that review and read it, I'd be carrying it around all day. I'd be thinking about it all night. I'd be waking up and thinking about it. And it is like it's still like a brand on the heart, like it stays there and it stings, and it takes days to burn those words back out of your mind.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you're like, maybe just don't allow it in, especially if you don't have the energy to take it in. And it's really hard to do because you want to read all the good reviews and all the bad reviews, but it feels really mature in a weird way to say I'm just not going to let it in.
It's
just
maybe
a
thing.
year.
You don't have to cloud up your head with it, really.
Right, and maybe a year from now I'll go back and I'll read everything at once, like with the perspective of time. But right now it's enough to just read Twitter and be with human beings who are coming up to me saying, the book really touched me. And this is the thing about the real world and the internet and the strange online-offline disconnect.
Yeah.
No one has been coming up to me at my shows saying, I think your book is a 300-page steaming pile of shit narcissism. That just doesn't happen. It's never happened to me.
How did that one get through? Because you obviously know that one by heart already.
Twitter.
That's right. You said that's the worst thing you can do, by the way, is become someone's greatest defender. Don't tweet her and say, I hated what they said about you in the Peoria Gazette.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing.
It doesn't earn you friends,
This was a national newspaper, and the writer of this article was a woman, and she not only added me on Twitter when she posted it, she used the hashtag of the book to make sure I would see it. And I just but it was a great moment because I was like, oh, I don't have to. Wow, I actually don't have to. On to the next thing. That's a really powerful feeling.
I'm flashing on a similar moment in a lower tech way. 15 years ago when I was on book tour and I was at my hotel in New York, and the publicist at HarperCollins, he's gone, so I can say that, was making sure that Xeroxed copies of the bad reviews were following me everywhere I went. I mean, there wasn't a lot of them, but you open the door of the hotel and there's this, he can't write a lick, there it is, waiting for you. And at some point you really do have to let it go. Chris is really good about saying, are you looking at Amazon again? I said, well, it's...
Yeah.
There was a rumor one time that every time you checked Amazon, that your rating would go down. If it was you, if they saw...
Wow.
I think Chris got the rumor started, so I'd stopped looking at the fucking thing.
So you told me backstage you're writing your own memoir.
I am. Yeah. Thank you.
You look so grumpy about it.
Well, it's just that we were talking about our process, and something has happened over the years where I can't leave a paragraph alone until I think it's the most brilliant paragraph on the face of the earth. And then that makes you move really slowly. So you often don't end up with the most beautiful paragraph on the face of the earth.
Was that not the case before?
Well, I started writing in the newspaper here, so I had to write 800 words a day, 5 days a week, no matter what. And the first Tales of the City appeared that way.
Yeah, and there's only so much you can tweak and fix.
No, I did afterwards, of course, and I had the pieces, which I think is what you did.
Right.
You locked yourself away for 2 months, and you wrote and you wrote and you wrote, and then had, by your own description, had friends looked at it yourself, decided you didn't like that, you wanted this to go. And it's so much easier when you have something to work with.
Right.
Then you're not slogging through. And then there's the thing about, you had a wonderful term, which I plan to use. You talked about costuming the facts.
Yeah.
Because nobody remembers everything that they said at a given moment. There's an instinct on the part of a writer, and you have been one for many years, long before you did this, to shape things, to give them a kind of triumphant shape to them, to make things come around. There are real serious moments in the novel when you're hugging that mime. I'm not going to, you can just get to it, but there are some lovely, lovely moments, and first of all, you have to have the kind of a mind where you absorb that. You pick up that little Easter egg along the way, and you stick it into your head, and then you pull it out when the right time comes, when you're telling the story.
Yeah.
And you're going to shape it. And part of me is always, in working on stuff that's actually autobiographical, that I'm being fraudulent in some way because, well, my mother probably didn't look at my father at that particular moment that I'm describing in my childhood.
But that's that poetic license that I was talking about with Thoreau, which is, you may not be getting at the factual truth. You're getting at the emotional truth.
The heart, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's all I care about anyway, all I've ever cared about. And everybody's dead. That's the other thing that's really...
I just saw, when I was in Australia, while I was writing the book, I went and saw Elizabeth Gilbert, who was on tour with her new fiction book. And she said something I thought was hilarious because it seems so true. She said, "Every writer I know is waiting for somebody to die. So they can finally write the story they've been waiting to write."
Yeah, yeah. That's the short answer to your question. It gets a lot easier when you're 70. And you own it. It's your story. You own it. You have the right to tell it the way you perceived it and felt it. Other people can write their books if they want to, but you own it.
Of course,
and anybody who's writing memoir needs to remind themselves of that.
Right. It's your story the way it is in here.
Yeah.
So I talked about it a while, maybe 4 or 5 nights ago. There was actually a section in the book that I regret cutting out. There's now like 10 or 15 sections of the book. I had to edit out so much, and I lopped out 50 or 60,000 words from the book that were in book shape, but it was just so long, and things had to go. And one of the things that I cut out was about you. And
really?
Yeah.
Well, no wonder it was so damn narcissistic.
Thank you very much for coming to the Jewish Community Center tonight.
No, tell me.
It was it was something that I think came to me via someone else on a blog comment at one point a few years ago, where you talk about the difference between having a biological family and a logical family. And a lot of my life has been spent building a logical family. And I have my biological family and my relationship with them, but always felt very other. And like I really desperately needed to find my people, which was pretty much fundamentally what drove me to be an artist and be a musician. I remember as a young kid, like at 8 or 9, going, I just have to find those people.
Yeah.
Where are they and how do I find them? I assumed if I just decided to be a musician and a theater maker, I would find those people and I would find my logical family, and I have. And that's something, and I've been running into friends along the road, even just in the last few weeks, who are like estranged from their parents. A friend of mine who I talk about in the book, who, came out to his parents who are fundamentalist Christians, and they completely cast him out of the family, and just all of these people, figuring out their own stories and completely reconnecting the dots and building a logical family, and then really, really owning it and finding a balance with it. And I think it's a lot easier for the artists because, we've like worked with that assumption from day one.
Yeah.
Which is, especially if we don't come from an artistic family, we're going to have to figure out where we belong. And, even in the course of writing the book, it's definitely not limited to artists. You look a little deeper and it's everybody.
Yeah. So guess what my memoir is titled? I can't believe this, by the way.
What?
Talk about Palmer-esque. Logical Family.
Wow. It's so powerful because it's so true.
I can't believe you that registered on you.
And I took it out of the fucking book. Maybe
Well, they would just would have said, you can't use that. Amanda Palmer's already used that, so.
I'll slip it into the second edition. I already have a list of shit I'm slipping back into the second edition. I will. Well, there's a lot. What else can we talk about? Or is it time to take questions? Probably it's time to take. We've been talking for a while.
You should do that.
Let's throw it out to the audience. There's mics out there that are jogging down. And also, actually, this would be a good time while you guys are coming down to bring out Lava May. Every night we've been bringing a local charity to come talk to our collection of audience in the spirit of the art of asking. And tonight we have Lava May and a wonderful girl named Leia, who I think might be hiding backstage. Where are you? Oh, there she is. So we're gonna hand the mic over. Can you actually just hand the audience mic?
And then we're ready with questions after.
Fantastic. Yeah, so Leia, just hop up here. And yeah, we've had like all sorts of charities, nonprofits, strange artists doing strange things who wanted to ask something of the community. And tonight, it's Leia, so give it up for her.
Hi, everyone, and thank you. Such an honor to share the stage with both of you. My name is Leia Filler, and I work for Lava May. We are a mobile shower and sanitation service for the homeless here in San Francisco.
Oh,
We convert retired muni buses into bathrooms on wheels because we believe that everyone has a right to get clean, and that with hygiene comes dignity, and with dignity, opportunity. There is well over the official count of 7,500 homeless folks in this city, and many of the shelters lack adequate or even any shower facilities, and for the thousands who live unsheltered on the streets, there are just 6 places they can go in the city to take a shower on a drop-in basis. Of course, how can they have any shot at interviews for jobs or housing if they can't clean up? But bigger than that, how can they even feel worthy of those opportunities if it's been weeks since their last shower and they've been living in their own filth and people won't even look at them when they walk by on the street? So we're hoping to break that cycle of dehumanization and restore a little bit of dignity, reconnect folks to their own humanity and a sense of self-worth.
Wow.
We are nearing the end of our 6-month pilot program. Our prototype, our first bus, hit the streets back in June, and it's been wonderfully successful, so much so that we're going to build 3 more starting in January. With 4 buses on the road, in 2015, we'll be able to give well over 50,000 showers. Wow. Each bus, if you think about a muni bus, the 2 doors on a muni bus, each is a separate entrance to a completely private bathroom. And they're nice. They're big and they're spacious. They got bright skylights, super nice appliances. We have digitally controlled showers and motion-censored faucets. We have hair dryers. They're clean between each use. It's wonderful in there. We still have the wheelchair lift on the front of the bus for our ADA compliant unit, because so many of the homeless are disabled. And even if it's just for 15 minutes, in that space they get a little bit of respite, a bit of restoration, and every single time they leave feeling a little bit more like themselves. If you'd like to know more, just go to our website, LavaMae, that's LAVAMAE.org, where you can sign up to volunteer with us. We love our volunteers. We have a blast on the streets. You can donate to support our efforts to expand the service. You can spread the word on your social media networks. And we're also looking to get in touch if you have any connections to local clothing manufacturers or retailers, if you know any cleaning supply companies. We'd love the introduction. So come say hi to me after the show. I'll give you a card. Thank you all very much.
TED Talk.
Okay, questions. First one.
We have a question over here on your right.
Hello, I'm Ashley. I was actually very curious. The people who have been coming to attend this, what percentage has been your music fan base, and what percentage has been from your TED Talk and other things you've been doing?
You mean on this tour? That's a really interesting question. I mean, my solo fan base post Dresden Dolls has been, a pretty constant group of people. But like a better person to ask that question would be like someone like Kat, who's in the second row, who's probably been to like 20 of my shows in the past couple of years, and she spends more time with the fan base than I do. So what would you say? She said she met at least, was this like in the last few days? She met at least 5 or 6 people who didn't really know my music but had seen the TED Talk. So I think, especially in a night like tonight where it's like very grown up and serious, is there anyone out here who had never seen me before? Yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of people. So, and when I see that, I actually despair because I'm like, I don't just sit and talk. I actually am really good songwriter and play songs too, but I didn't do that tonight. But hopefully the people who came through TED or through the book will stay with me, and when I come back and I play the Warfield the next time, they'll actually come and watch the music. So
The next question's right here in the front.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
So me and my friend are both musical theater nerds, and we appreciated the quip that you said you were a theater nerd too. And I was just wondering why you decided to be a rock star, and maybe if you were thinking about making a musical or anything like that. So, yeah.
Well, I was definitely I spent more time doing theater in high school than I did doing music because that's what was available to me. There wasn't an after-school rock star thing that I could do. Otherwise, I would have done that. But actually, I loved and still love making theater, and I've never stopped. And there was a time in my early 20s where I was like, do I want to get into theater? But I was really self-sufficient, and I didn't, I tried directing and writing some of my own shows through college and afterwards, and I wanted to do everything DIY, and there were all these like official ways of doing things, but I would like grab my friends and write shows from scratch and put them on in nightclubs and stuff. But it didn't seem very sustainable, and my passion as a songwriter was deeper under there. And so that's where I followed. But even if you look at the early days of the Dresden Dolls, like, I couldn't give it up. Like, I still was like, but I'm a theater director. Like, and the shows reflected that because they felt like theatrical events. And I spent, until I went on the road with this book less than 2 weeks ago, I just spent 2 solid months at Bard College, writing a musical from scratch with a bunch of college students. So I'll never, and I've done a lot of theater stuff, but theater stuff doesn't spread like this. Like, I've never done a one-woman show, but I've done, a whole run at the ART in Boston, playing the MC in Cabaret, and I've done a lot of theater things in the cracks, but nothing touring. And also, I have to say, I don't think I'm cut out to be, and Alan Cumming, right? Mm. I feel like I could never do what Alan does, because even doing the American Repertory Theater, 42 nights of cabaret, playing this amazing role with lots of improvisation, by night 12, I was like, I'm so bored. How can these people do this exact same thing every night? And I'm so in love with the improvisation of space and people, and no night is ever the same twice. That I think if I do more theater, it's going to be trying to pull on on those elements and seeing what I can do and how I can merge music and theater, because I actually don't think they're different. I think we separate them a lot in our heads, but I think music and theater really live right there together. So, just stay tuned. I'll do some weird shit, I'm sure.
Question right here.
How is the experience of writing your TED Talk compared to the experience of writing the book?
Well, kind of similar, actually. And this is something I wanted to ask you. Like, when you wrote, whatever, that you could even, it's like, compare your process 20 years ago to 2 days ago. Do you actually keep a schedule? Do you sit down and say, I'm going to start at 10 and end at 2, and I'm going to write, and then just see what happens?
I mean, I usually do work in the morning, and then I'll smoke a joint at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then go back to work, and it's fun. I mean, that's honest. That's completely honest. You can't do it that way all the time. Obviously, there has to be discipline and form. But you are the best example of it I know. Art is about play. I mean, it's really about play. You have to put yourself in the moment. You have to be playing and engaging, and I think that I have, in some ways, I mean, many writers just sit in their garret and do it and don't think about its effect on anybody. I don't think Neil's that way at all, because Neil just thrives on stage when he gets to read and have an audience. Yes,
I know. No, I love it.
Yeah, it's lovely. The two of you together with your little medicine show is the most amazing thing. But yeah, I just try to find a way to keep playing and having some sort of wonderment about what I'm doing, even when I'm enmeshed in the technical thing. I would imagine that the TED Talk was really great because it gave you a form. You knew what they came to you about the book after the TED Talk, right? I mean, you got approached then.
Yeah, I mean,
so you could build on that idea and then let it blossom.
Yeah, no, I had an arc already set for me.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting the order in which things have happened. I look at it and I totally take it for granted, but of course, it's a series of incredible coincidences. And make no mistake, a 12-minute TED Talk, it's a piece of theater. Mm-hmm. It's a 12-minute monologue. If it's good, it's got the emotional arc of a great 12-minute short piece of theater, where you are sucking your audience in, you're making them trust you, and then you're surprising them, and you're turning and you're sharing a story. But I went through several processes, which is like when I first wrote that TED Talk, I typed down what I thought I wanted to say. I recorded it into a phone. It was 26 minutes long. I knew I was going to have to cut a lot. And then I also realized something really important as I kept rehearsing the talk for more and more people, which I did a lot of. Like, I called on all my friends, and I just spoke it over and over again until it became more conversational. Because writing, I could even feel it tonight. Reading, writing isn't the same as talking to people.
No.
There's a voice on the page that is totally different and has a completely different cadence, and a different set and a different vocabulary and a different sentence structure. And I noticed this because I'm kind of a geek, and when I got offered the TED Talk, I watched like 60 TED Talks. And I started noticing these patterns that the good talks, I noticed the patterns emerging. And when you watch TED, notice this. They all start with, so, how many fucking books start with, so, and it's true. It's like what you're saying there with your body language and with your with your speaking language is, well, I'm talking to you, which is really different. And so part of my process with writing the TED Talk was to plow out the writtenness of it and work on the spokenness of it. Yeah. And a few other people, like if you watch Elizabeth Gilbert's TED Talk, she really nails that as well. She has a great writing voice, but for TED, she really she rehearsed her speaking voice. And and I kind of did the same thing with this. I was like, this needs to be a book voice. I've never written a book. I don't know what my book voice is. I know what my blog voice is. I know what my Twitter voice is. This is going to be something new, and I'm going to have to find it while writing it. And it was hard. And I don't feel like I did it perfectly. Like, being on this tour has actually sucked, because I'm reading it and I'm going like, oh, I could have said this so much better, and why did I cut that? And oh my God, I just used the same fucking adjective 3 times. Oh my, and I'm, and again, like, I'm okay with its imperfection. It's my first fucking book. Hopefully I will write another and I will get better.
Next question in the middle.
Hey guys, so I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you have these lyrics, I'm so busy with everything that I don't look at anything, but I'm surely look when I'm older. So when I think about these lyrics, I really feel related, because I feel the same way. But lately I started to look at things like seeing more colors and natures and stuff. Do you feel that after writing that you feel different? You glazing more of the stuff, or you just like going like busy with life? And my second question is, you did a gig in Israel in which you, after the show in this place, you just took your instrument and you just went out to the street, and all those people like were following you, and you just sat on this chair in this boulevard. You kept on going like the piper from Hamlet. It was really special. What the sensation was for you? And
well, question number 1, that's a good one for both of us, because I want to ask you, like, do you feel like you've figured it out, or do you feel like you're still a complete mess?
I'm still a complete mess.
Oh, thank God.
It never goes away. It never goes away. Anne Lamott, wonderful, yeah. She wrote the best writer's manual ever, called Bird by Bird.
And an inspiration to me, too.
Yeah, was it?
I loved that book.
Oh, I mean, she's got 3 points she makes. Small assignments, I love that one, because it means you only have to write the paragraph about when your mother comes in the room or whatever, a page. That's all you're doing that day. And then shitty first drafts, that was the other rule. Your first draft's shitty.
Right.
And it will be. It doesn't matter how much of an artist, the gulf between the artist you see yourself as and the artist that actually can get that first draft out there is enormous, and you have to forgive yourself. So yeah, I'm full of doubt.
Yeah, and I think that, there's a lot of parallels between the artistic process and accepting the shittiness and the messiness so that you can eventually get past it, and, in the general life stuff. I was in shortly after I wrote that song, maybe 6 months, a year later, I was in Australia and invited to play on the radio, and I showed up, with my ukulele, ready to do, kind of typical interview, and the nice thing about the ukulele is I can just play it on the radio, and it's really simple, no sound check, and I was shocked because the guest before me, sitting right there, because she happens to be touring in Australia, was Judy Collins.
Oh my God.
And I'm a fan. And also just like, and a fan of her. The music, the singing, wonderful, but like, I look at her and I'm like, I could never, I would never, I will never have such grace. And she sat there because we wound up sort of being on the air together. And I hadn't played that song very much. I had played it here or there. And when I got to, I don't know how old she is, but, she's probably
70?
Yeah, probably in her 70s. And just gorgeous and, like an angel. And I got to that third verse of the song about, when I'm old, I'm beautiful, and I'll finally, and I cried while playing it, thinking like, here, I'm faced with my most ideal self. Like, if I could only be Judy Collins when I'm 70. She looks like she has it all figured out, and she doesn't. you know, this is the great thing. It's like the more I look around and the more honest I become with people and the more honest they are with me. I've never met someone. I haven't met them yet. If they exist, I almost don't want to meet them because I just won't believe them. And it is in the process. It's like just in the ability to embrace the mess and the imperfection of yourself, the one who loses things, the one who hurts others, the one who makes the mistake, who talks too loud, who doesn't say enough, who, like all of the things that we are. You know, sometimes it really it's just in the act of naming it that you get a little closer to whatever that thing is that you're never going to get to. And, you know, that's a daily practice for me. And, you know, I'm happy with accepting that it's going to go until the day I die and I'm never going to get there. But, you know.
That fills me up. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Does Neil ever express doubts? Let's talk about him. He's not here.
Yes.
Does he do? I mean, I've been through 3 novels
way
now.
worse than me.
Oh, good.
Which I love. He's in a very real. I mean, he has that kind of general, you know, insecure artist thing that every artist I know has.
Yeah.
But he also has a deep insecurity that I've seen that's very real. Because Neil has his put on British thing, but then he has. Then there's the real thing, and I've seen, especially because when I met him, he kind of stopped writing, and was just like very into Amanda Palmer and into running around.
He sure was. I heard about you before I met you.
Yeah, but he really he just started celebrating his life, and and I came into his life like a hurricane. I was like, let's do this, and this, and this. And he was like, okay. And, and he didn't write anything substantial for a long time. And, and I would occasionally look over and be like, you said you were a writer. What's the deal? But he would, once he got to know me and got to trust me, he told me that after every book, and then in that moment, he was terrified that he wouldn't be able to write again. And that was it. And that the next time he sat down, it would be gone. And and this wasn't just this wasn't just him putting on airs. He really feared it. And I said, how many fucking books have you written? Really? After book number 60, you think you're going to lose it? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And, and it hasn't stopped him writing. And I think there's also something to be said for that fear as a driver.
Yeah.
And that thing that your mind does, so that you can challenge yourself or that you can trick yourself. I think that there's a lot at work there. That's not there for no reason.
And to live with somebody who starts to see these patterns is very interesting. I've written 4 novels since I've been with Chris, and now when I say about 2/3 of the way through, I have no idea how I'm getting out of this. And he will say, oh, you're just at that point, which really pisses me off. What do you mean I'm at that point?
It's like
how do you know I'm at that point? Maybe I really have lost it.
It's just like telling a chick that she's in a bad mood because she's PMS.
Yeah.
But it's real. Yes.
But it is helpful to be reminded that you're just at that point,
Right. Well, and I mean, and in the best case scenario in a relationship, it doesn't come across as a poking, nagging, and and I've learned so much about how to be the wife of a writer, and Neil has also learned now how to be the husband of a musician and now a writer, and we give each other a lot of space to piss each other off and to take time away and and to remind each other what happened last time without trying to sound patronizing. And it's a really, that's a beautiful part of the relationship is the art part.
One of the big gifts he gives you in the book is sending you off to Australia and saying, "Go, take your 3 months," or whatever the.
Yeah, he also really helped me edit the book, which was a huge gift, and he wrote his own dialogue. I gave him all.
I was just about to compliment you on how well you caught him.
No, I wrote it all, and then that was our deal. Our deal was if he felt like he was being misrepresented in an argument,
yeah,
he could, if only life. And yeah, I mean, he especially, there's some really sensitive stuff in here.
Yeah.
Some of which he encouraged me to write. You know, and without spoiling the book, like there's some really heavy shit about our relationship in here, and Neil took it and really carefully helped sometimes get to the crux of what was going on between me and him when we were having these really heavy conversations, and it felt like, you know, we were both parents to this book child. You know, we combined our effort to really make it reflect the emotion, again, the emotional truth. Maybe not the way the conversation went, but the way it really felt.
Yeah.
And I owe him so much for this one.
Sorry.
Oh, go
Keep
ahead.
going. I was just going to say we're going to take 2 more questions. Go ahead.
One more question down in front.
Hey, guys. I have a question for you both, if I may. I was wondering what the process of writing a memoir has taught you about yourselves that writing songs or writing fiction did not.
Well, that might be a better Armistead question. I mean, my memoir process has been going since I started writing my blog 15 years ago. That's just been an ongoing serial memoir for which I have never been paid. But hopefully we'll publish into a book someday, because there is some great writing on my blog. I mean, some of it is really boring bullshit about shows coming up, but some of it is like, I really sat and I spent a day crafting a blog and really trying to put my feelings into words. And this, you know, this sort of feels like a very well-edited long blog about a lot of things. And my songs are very memoir-y. And I'm not really answering your question, but I actually...
That's okay, I'm not going to answer it either.
Good. A series of things that I've seen in the last few years, watching Neil write fiction, writing this book, and understanding what it means to really sit down and write an entire book. And going through some really difficult things in my life that I know I'm not allowed to share for whatever reason. And finally, really, even though I intellectually knew, finally really understanding why some people have to write fiction or they will die, as they've told me, Neil being one of them. And going like, oh, I get it. Like, you know, your fiction really is you. It's your memoir. It's just in like Mardi Gras costume. And
that is the answer. That's exactly the answer. There's a certain safety in fiction, because you can be a lesbian if you want to, and nobody will recognize you. If you follow me, you can. And if you don't, I'm sorry. I wrote a novel once where I was a heterosexual female Jewish dwarf. It was the best disguise I've ever had. And I could say anything about myself because she was saying, and everyone was congratulating her on her bravery and her frankness and all of that, but there was a certain safety in it. Memoir, you think, okay, how am I dressing myself up here? And that makes you fret a little bit. I'm only 15 pages in, so I can't have a whole lot of conclusions yet.
Well, there's
your
also...
book has been so useful.
There's also something to be said there about the difference between, you know, writing a 300-page memoir and writing a 300-page chunk of fiction about a totally fictional character, And memoir is much more open to the narcissistic pile of shit style criticism, whereas fiction, someone can say that you're a bad fiction writer, but there's kind of a safety wall there, of like, well, at least they're not attacking me. They're attacking my writing, my characters, my inability to form a sentence, but not my soul. And when it's memoir, it's like, no, I actually really just hate you. Not your book.
Hashtag Amanda Palmer.
Exactly. One more, and then
Here
I
we
think
are.
I will play you guys off with a song.
Hi, Amanda. I don't really honestly have a question for you. I just have a very simple statement, and it comes from a lot of reasons, but mostly growing up, listening to you and reading about you and things that you would write, you were always very inspirational to me in a way that wasn't, I don't know, it was, you have this ability to be, for good, bad, or indifferent from what I've experienced, to be completely, unashamedly, unabashedly, and unapologetically exactly who you are. And that is the best quality that anyone could ever have in themselves to me. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the small little thing that I will say is that we had a family loss recently, a very close friend, and she was absolutely obsessed with you to an unhealthy degree. And so her son and I, we played In My Mind at her wake. And it was this really beautiful, emotional moment for all of us. And I just want to say thank you also for that moment.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you. We've run incredibly late, but I didn't want to. There's a song I wanted to play you guys. So, can I get the mic and the ukulele mic back on stage?
Do I get to sit here for this?
If you want to, yeah.
I'd like to.
So this is a song written relatively recently because I haven't been. I'll get that actually. No, we'll figure it out. I talk in the book about. Hold on. Say something clever.
I know.
This will work. Okay. So I haven't been writing a ton of songs lately because book, and there's so much in the book I would have loved to read tonight, but this was better. And hopefully you'll read the book. But it does get pretty dark, especially in the criticism in the internet hate department, and I mean the second half of the book. A lot of things in my life, marriage stuff, my best friend with cancer, and like controversy after controversy, and internet hate upon internet hate just kind of piling up in an intolerable, when you ask how you deal with it, like sometimes I just can't deal with it, and I just, break down and don't really know what to do. And there was a really dark patch for a while there. And I found myself feeling really hypocritical because, artists have been asking me for years, like, how do I deal with depression? How do I deal with people telling me that that I'm terrible, and how do you deal with internet trolls? And I'm like, you just make art. It'll be great. And there I found myself kind of at the bottom of the blackness, totally unable to do anything, just but when I finally came out the other side, this was one of the things that helped. And it's a song I wrote, having not written anything for about a year. You'd think I'd shut their children from the way that they are talking, and there's no point in responding, 'cause it will not make them stop, and I am tired of explaining and of seeing so much hating in the very same safe haven where I used to just see helping. I've been drunk and skipping dinner, eating skin from off my fingers, and I tried to call my brother, but he no longer exists. I keep forgetting to remember that he would have been much prouder if he saw me shake these insults off instead of getting bitter. I am bigger on the inside, but you have to come inside to see me. Otherwise, you're only hating other people's low-res copies. You'd think I'd learn my lesson from the way they keep on testing my capacity for pain and my resolve to not get violent. But though my skin is thickened, certain spots can still be gotten. It is typically human of me thinking I am different to friends hooked up to hospital machines to fix their cancer, and there is no better place than from this waiting room to answer the French kid who wrote an email to the website late last night. His father raped him and he's scared. He asked me, how do you keep fighting? And the truth is I don't know. I think it's funny that he asked me, 'cause I don't feel fighter. Lately I am too unhappy. You are bigger on the inside, but your father cannot see. You need to tell someone, be strong, and somewhere some dumb rock star truly loves you. You'd think I'd get perspective from my view here by the bedside. It is difficult to see the ones I love so close to death, all their infections and prescriptions, and the will to live at all in question. Can I not accept that my own problems are so small? You took my hand when you woke up. I had been crying in the darkness. We all die alone, but I am so, so glad that you are here. You whispered, we are so much bigger on the inside. You, me, everybody. Someday when you're lying where I am, you'll finally get it. Beauty, we are so much bigger than another one can ever see. But trying is the point of life, so don't stop trying. Promise me. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank my guest, Armistead Maupin, for coming tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. And Armistead Maupin can be found on Twitter at Armistead Maupin. And yes, if you like the book, I need you to help me spread it. And there's a beautiful audiobook too that I read with these songs and stuff on it. And I hope to see many of you out here. And last but not least, I didn't say it before, I'd really love to thank the JCC for having us here tonight. And for all of the beautiful events that they've been doing with what it sounds like so many amazing authors. So thank you guys all for being here, and have a wonderful night.